All right, in this lesson today, we're going to be talking about how to multiply complex numbers. So just a couple of things to remember. When we're talking about I, remember I is imaginary because you're taking the square root of a negative number. So I represents the square root of -1. And I squared equals -1. So we're going to be doing some simplifying, so remembering those is going to help you along with the process. Also remember that a complex number is the combination of real and imaginary together. So that A plus or minus BI. All right, so looking at this first example, we have 2I times 13 minus 9I. Now, the reason I know this is multiplication is because there's parentheses that's in front. There's no other operation that indicates anything different. So we're going to multiply the 2I times 13. So we have 2 times 13 is going to give me 26I. And then I have 2I times -9I. So that's going to give me -18, but I times I is going to give me I squared. So this is where I was saying just a second ago, you really need to remember what your I squared equals because we can actually simplify that value. So we have 26I minus 18, and where I have I squared, I'm now going to substitute -1. And then I finally have 26I, and then -18 times -1 is going to be +18. If you write it in that format, plus or minus BI, so your real plus or minus your combination with imaginary, then you would want to write it 18 plus 26I. All right, so for this one, again, I know this is multiplication because I have two parentheses and they're side by side. There's no other operation like addition or subtraction. And I'm going to use the box method. So the box method is where it helps me to organize my distribution that I will be doing here. Because a lot of times we get confused and we'll just multiply the first and the first and the last and the last. But we have to multiply everything in the parentheses. So I'm going to separate this. So I have 3 and 4I, and then I have 8 and -5I. So I have 8 times 3, that's going to give me 24. And then I have 8 times 4I is going to give me 32I. And then I'm going to multiply here with my 3 and -5I. So that's going to give me -15I. And then I have -5I and 4I. So we're going to multiply the -5 and 4 to give me -20, but I times I is going to give me I squared. So just like if we were multiplying any other type of polynomial, we would combine our like terms. So I have 32 minus 15I, and that's going to give me 17I. So I'm going to write this out. So I have 24 plus 17I. And then I have minus 20I squared. So in this situation, again, with that I squared, I'm going to substitute -1 in for I squared. So I have -20 times -1. So that's going to simplify to +20. And then I'm going to again combine my like terms here. So I have 24 and I have 20. And that's going to give me 44 plus 17I. All right, so for this one, I still have a very similar problem to the one I just did, except for at the very end, I have another 2 that I would need to handle. So you have a couple of ways you can do this. You can go ahead and distribute the 2 into the first parentheses. It does not go into both parentheses, okay? So I can distribute the 2 in the first parentheses, or I can just go ahead and multiply this and then distribute the 2 to the answer that I get at the end. Completely up to you how you want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and take my 2 parentheses here that are multiplying, and I'm going to multiply those out. And then after I multiply those out, I'll distribute the 2 to the answer that I get. So I'm going to use my box method. All right, so I have 2 and 4I. I have -3 and I. So I'm going to multiply each column with each row. So I have -3 times 2 is going to be -6. I have 2 times I is going to give me 2I. 3 times -4I is going to give me -12I. And then 4i times I is going to give me 4i squared. So I'm going to combine some like terms. So I have positive 2i and negative 12i. So when I combine those, that's going to give me negative 10i plus 4i squared. Again, I have I squared. We're going to substitute negative 1. And then from there, I will simplify and combine any further like terms. So I have negative 6 minus 10i minus 4. And I have negative 6 and negative 4 are going to combine to make negative 10 minus 10i. The last thing that I need to do is I need to distribute that 2. So when I distribute that 2, okay, so this is going to be the most common mistake that's going to happen in a problem like this, is we're going to forget to distribute the 2 at the end because that 2 needs to be brought down. So if I distribute the 2, all we're going to do here is do 2 times negative 10 and 2 times negative 10i. So my final answer is going to be negative 20 minus negative 20i. All right, and the last one. So we have 2 parentheses. This one is actually probably going to be a little bit easier. And the reason I say that is because this one doesn't have, this parentheses right here just has a single term. So we're going to be able to kind of distribute our pieces into the parentheses. So I'm going to do negative 3 times 2i is going to give me negative 6i. And then I have negative 3 times 1 is going to be negative 3. And then we can multiply 5i into that parentheses. So we have 5i times negative 6i. That's going to give me negative 30i squared. And then we have 5i times negative 3, which is going to give me negative 15i. All right, so just like before, I squared, we're going to substitute in negative 1. So I have negative 30 times negative 1 minus 15i. So I now have positive 30 minus 15i as my final answer. All right, so if you treat I like it's a variable, like if you're multiplying like 2x and 5x, you do it the exact same way. You just got to make sure you simplify, especially when you have I squared. You're going to reduce that I squared down to negative 1 and continue the process. All right, so for this example, it looks like we have 1 parentheses, but I have parentheses squared, which means that I'm going to have that same binomial inside the parentheses multiplied twice. So when you have a parentheses squared, as I have right here, you're going to write that parentheses twice and then multiply. So again, we're going to do that box method. So we're going to have 3 and negative 6i and 3 and negative 6i again. And we're going to multiply. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times negative 6i is negative 18i. 3 times negative 6i is negative 18i again. And then we have negative 6i times negative 6i is going to be 36i squared. So we'll combine those like terms. So we have 18 minus 36i plus 36i squared. We're going to take I squared and we're going to substitute in negative 1. And when I reduce that, that's going to give me 18 minus 36i minus 36. So if I take 18 and I subtract 36, that's going to leave me negative 18 minus 36i. So again, whenever I have parentheses squared, I'm just going to write that twice and multiply the same binomial times itself. If you have any questions, make sure you email, message, whatever you need to do to get in contact with us so we can answer those questions and clarify anything that you don't understand.